Both of the RVs that we've had, our 397 TH that we got back in 2017 and this 410 TH that we've had for, gosh, I guess it'll be about a year and a half now, have had a standard tank water heater. In fact, both of them had the exact same water heater, which is a 12-gallon Suburban water heater that is propane and or electric. I say and or because you can actually use both at the same time to kind of double your heating capacity. And at 12 gallons, it is a little bit larger than you'll find in a lot of RVs. A lot of RVs with tank heaters have 10 and 8 gallons, but Suburban does also make a 16 gallon, so we're not at the largest end. But my point is we have a little bit larger tank and we can take quite a long shower with 12 gallons of hot water. However, we do have to kind of time things sometimes. You don't want to take showers back to back because the second person is going to run out of hot water. And of course, you know, washing dishes, doing a hot load of wash, etc. You get the idea. So we've always been curious about the on-demand water heaters that have this unlimited supply of hot water. And as it happens, we just recently traveled in an RV with an on-demand water heater. And our experience was a bit of a mixed bag. So while we have both RVs here together, I wanted to do some side-by-side experiments and actually take some measurements and see what's what. If you're curious what the RV is, why we have it, why we traveled in it, well, that's top secret, and you're gonna have to subscribe and click that notification bell so you can follow our travels when we get to that RV and see what's going on there. Before we get into the test, I'd like to just cover some basic concepts and also the specs of these water heaters so we know exactly what we're testing. So first off, you have your standard tank water heater. It's just like the kind you might find in your house. It has a tank of water that gets heated to 135 or so degrees, and that water is hot and ready anytime you need it. As soon as you turn on the faucet, all you're waiting for is for the hot water to get from the water heater to your tap. The drawback is you are limited to that tank size capacity. Once you're out of hot water, you do have to wait for a recovery, which is just the heating back up of the cold water that replaced the hot water. Now, a tankless or on-demand water heater is kind of just like it sounds. It doesn't have a tank at all. It heats water on demand as the water is flowing through it. The key here is, since the water isn't hot sitting there ready, it has to detect flow before the burner kicks on, and you have a little bit more of a delay in getting hot water to your tap. On the upside, once you get that hot water running, it's unlimited. You can just hot water, hot water, hot water all day long as you have the fuel to do so. And that brings me to the other point about these is the only ones that I've seen for RVs are propane only. I think propane provides a high enough BTU to heat water that fast. I'm not sure if there are any full electric ones out there. I would think they would have to be 240 volt, and I'm not real sure how feasible that is in an RV. It'd probably take a lot of juice to heat water that fast. So with that, the other downside to having propane as its primary fuel source is you can't take advantage of the free electricity that's usually included with your RV site. So let's talk about the specs of these two units that we're going to test. In our 410, which was also in our old RV, we have a Suburban 12-gallon. It's the SW12DEL. And the propane side of that heater is rated at 12,000 BTU, with the electric side rated around 7,200 BTU. So combined, you've got about 19,200 BTU of energy to heat that 12-gallon tank. Those BTU ratings aren't really critical in comparing these two. It's really apples to oranges when you're talking about BTU ratings of water heater tank versus tankless, simply because the heating elements only go into play when it's reheating water in the tank in the recovery cycle for that particular unit. So a higher BTU unit is going to get you a faster recovery time, but it's not going to get you hot water faster or more hot water to your tap. And that brings me to the tankless. On a tankless, the BTU rating really matters because it's heating the water as it goes. The model that we're going to be testing is the Girard GSWH2. This model is rated at 42,000 BTUs, which, looking at the different options out there, it's a little bit on the smaller side, but the RV that we're testing is kind of an entry-level unit, so that's kind of why that's in there. I did also see a note on the inside door of that water heater that says between 2,000 and 4,000 feet. I don't know why it stops at 4,000, because obviously if you go higher, it's going to be even worse. But Because of the way propane burns, you know, it needs oxygen to burn, and the higher you go in elevation, the thinner the air is, the less oxygen there is, and the lower BTU rating you're going to get out of propane. And that's true for all propane burning devices, whether it's your water heater or your furnace or whatever. Anyway, this note inside the little door said that 2,000 to 4,000 feet, you're going to get about 37,000 BTU versus the 42,000. Obviously, that's just kind of a notice. It's a gradual scale. If you go above 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, it's going to be even less than that. For our testing, we are at almost exactly 2,000 feet, so do keep that in mind. This thing is really going to be less than the 42,000 that it's rated for. And since I'm talking about this BTU measurement, I did look up the units that are going into larger RVs like our 410. New 410s that are coming out now do have a 60,000 BTU on-demand water heater by Furrion. We don't have that one to test, but just know that as we're testing this, if you've got that model, or one like it that's 60,000 or higher BTUs, you know, it's going to probably heat up just a little bit faster and have a higher limit as far as how hot you can make your water. So with these differences in operation in mind, we can make a few assumptions that we're going to test. Number one, a tank heater is going to have less wait time for hot water. However, you're limited on the quantity of water based on the size of your tank. Whereas on the tankless, you've got instant hot water, but you're probably going to have to wait a little bit longer for that hot water because the burner and everything has to fire up and get to heat while the water is already flowing. And I think you're going to see in our test, there are some other caveats as well. With those differences in mind, here are some tests that I want to do and actually quantify. Number one, I want to measure how long it takes to get water to the tap. That can be a big factor when you're boondocking or even just partial hookups. Along with that, I want to test how much water is wasted while you wait for the hot water. And how does that wait and delay affect tasks where you might want to turn your water on and off frequently, like maybe when you're washing dishes, boondocking, or when you're taking a Navy shower when you're boondocking, you're turning that water off and on. How does it handle that? What are the repercussions? I'm also curious, when you're on a tankless heater that's heated by propane, you've got unlimited hot water like I mentioned, but how much propane does it burn for, say, a 15-minute shower? So let's go run these tests, and then we're going to go over the results and see what's what, and we'll also maybe have some tips based on what we find. All right, our first test is going to be our initial flow test, and that is how long does it take to get hot water to the faucet after we turn it on. Also, for all of the tests we're doing today, I want to set a baseline of what our source water temperature is, and it's pretty cold. So right about 56.5 degrees there for our source water. So our first test is duration and how much water is wasted getting hot water to here. Ready, go. Ooh, that's cold. It's saying 54, 55, it got a little colder. Starting to get warm. 80s, 90s, 102, 104, 110, 111, 112, 13, 14, 15, 16. So right, 117, so that's good enough for dishwashing. That took about 32 seconds, and we used 1.75 liters. Now the second test I want to do is to see how it handles the cycling of water. And what I mean by that here at the sink is you're washing dishes. Now you're going to have your hot water on for a bit. You might wash some dishes. You might shut it off to do stuff, turn it back on. How long is it taking between those, and is there any break from the hot water coming out? As I suspected when cycling the water on and off with 30-second breaks in between, there was virtually zero wait time for hot water to resume. Now we want to go to the shower and do a similar test that we did here. And that's going to be a little different because that's going to be a mix of hot and cold, because your average water temperature for a shower is going to be between 105 and 110 degrees per the interwebs. So let's head in there and test that out. In the bathroom of our 410TH, I did the same time delay and wastewater volume test that I did in the kitchen sink. Because the bathroom is directly above the water heater, it only took 15 seconds to get hot water, and a little bit less than a liter of cold water was wasted. I also did the test cycling water off for 30 seconds and back on, and the delay was negligible with only about 2 seconds of warm water before it was hot again. I did that test 3 times to make sure. Next up is to test the recovery time. I'm going to run this shower on full hot until the hot water is all gone, because I want to test how long it takes to fully recover the water heater. After the water heater is fully recovered, then I will do a duration test and see how long that 12 gallons of fully heated water lasts. All right, ice cold water coming out of the hot side. The water heater has been off, as you can see here. Now I'm going to turn on the electric and gas together. Like I mentioned, they can be run simultaneously for the fastest recovery, and that's what I want to test here. Oh, it just finished. 38 minutes for full recovery. So we've got 38 minutes for a full recovery on that. Now we're going to see how long we can actually run a shower on that 12 gallons we just heated up. I ran the shower making adjustments to the hot-cold mix as the water started to get used up and a little bit diluted with cold water, because that's just how you really take showers, right? You have to adjust the water as the temperature goes down. I think we're getting low. Okay, it's all the way hot now. It's all the way hot, and we're getting in the 90s, so I'm considering this test done. So shower length test right about the 16-minute mark is where we started to lose hot water, and I had to start really adjusting the hot water mix up quite a bit. So we're going to call it 16 minutes. Okay, we are over here in our test unit that we're not going to disclose until later. But this one has the on-demand water heater, so I'm going to do some of the same tests here. Of course, the first one I want to do is our duration to get hot water, and then we'll see how hot it is. The maximum set temperature for this particular model is 124 degrees. I imagine that would be a bit higher if we were on a 60,000 BTU system, but this 42,000 BTU system is what we've got. So let's do the same test. We're going to test how much wasted water we get, and we're going to see what our final temperature is and how long it takes to get there. I'm going to flip this all the way over to hot and go. I hear the thing firing up. So we'll see more of what this thing does when we go do some tests in the bathroom as far as the stages that it goes through. Still really cold. Again, our shore water here is pretty cold. Right now I'm getting 62 degrees. Still cold at 30 seconds, starting to warm up. 80 degrees, 83, still not warm enough for dishes. 88, we're like hand washing temperature now. 97, 98, 99, 100. Okay, now we're at the point I feel it's 102. Now I feel like we are where we could wash dishes. So let's shut that off. And that took almost a full minute. That was about 55 seconds to get hot water here. Just barely shy of 2.5 liters of wasted water for this to heat up. So I want to test intermittent use. Before testing intermittent use, I got the water flowing at maximum temp again, shut the water off for 30 seconds, then turned the hot water back on. I repeated this test 3 times with the same results of about 55 seconds. So when cycling, you get some initial hot water from the lines, but then it goes cold and does take about 55 seconds to heat up again, each time wasting about 2.5 liters. I think maybe for washing dishes, the best approach might be to fill a sink or tub with hot water, wash your dishes, and save all the rinsing till the end. But you can see a lot of water and time is wasted if you need to cycle water. Now on to the bathroom tests. Okay, time for a shower test with the on-demand. Now, one of the advantages of an on-demand is you can actually set your output temperature, and this thing should maintain it. So what we've heard from people who have this system or a system like it is that rather than have your hot water set on maximum and be like around 124, whatever this thing says the 124 is its max, you can set the temp to something closer to like 109. And then you have the option of at your shower, you can just turn on the hot water or turn it on all the way hot depending on how your controls are and get that output temperature and just keep it there. rather than having to do the hot cold mix thing where you have this at maximum. So I'm going to have that set at 109, and we're going to see how long it takes to get water here. Just because it'll be easier to test the temperature and stuff coming out of the faucet versus the shower, and they're right next to each other. I don't think there's going to be a big difference. So I'm going to use the sink to test our output here. 3, 2, 1, go. I hear this thing kick in. We got hot water pretty quick that time, but I think it had some water. The line's 111. Nope, cold again. Back to that, down to 70, 69, 70, 79. Now it's coming back up. 95. Let's see if we hit our actual 110. The display here shows me it's getting up to 106. 108, okay, there's 108. I'm seeing 102 at the faucet. Now this is telling me 109. This is telling me 109. This is, I'm getting about 106, 107 out, so it's cooling down a couple of degrees. So as you can see, it took about 45 to 50 seconds to get water from the tank to the bathroom. A slight improvement over the kitchen to the bathroom simply because it's a shorter distance of water lines. The intermittent cycling tests were pretty much the same, taking about 45 to 55 seconds to get hot water to the tap. The difference being that it would get warm or hot first because of the water in the lines, followed by cold water, and then it would get hot again. So it would seem that a Navy-style shower in an RV with an on-demand water heater is really pretty impractical. Now, on the test that I wanted to run of how much propane is used in a tankless heater for a 15-minute shower in this particular unit, I wanted to use those same little weighing hanging things that I use when I tested the Mopica sensors. If you didn't see that video, I'll link it down below. That's where I actually tested the accuracy. Long story short, they're super accurate. So I kind of punted and decided to go ahead and use those to measure. It isn't perfect, but I was able to do a 15-minute test, and I was able to detect a 0.7 centimeter drop in the propane levels. Now that doesn't mean a whole lot, so I did a little bit of math, and that comes out to about 536 cubic centimeters, and that converts to about 0.14 gallons. Knowing a 30-pound tank holds about 7 gallons or 26.5 liters, we can estimate you'd get about 50 15-minute showers out of a 30-pound tank. Again, that's a very rough estimate, but that's pretty good. You know, you've got two 30-pound tanks, 100 15-minute showers, that's not bad. But for those of you who are out there using this in real life, I'm curious what your anecdotal evidence is. What are you seeing as far as propane use for your on-demand water heater? So let's put up our final testing results here on the screen. This little graph you see here will also be available in the blog post if you want to go back and look at it versus just pausing it. And you can see that the tank standard water heater wins in almost every category. The only exception is when you're able to have water flowing constantly and not worry about how much water you're using, aka on full hookups with sewer. The tankless doesn't seem to perform very well when you have to ration water, aka boondocking, partial hookups with no sewer. Whenever you've got to ration your water and cycle water on and off, the tankless is definitely a detriment. If you do have to boondock with a tankless heater, here are some tips that might help. Number one, when you're washing dishes, maybe catch that initial 2.5 liters or whatever you get of cold water in a bucket and then set it aside, and then you can use that water for extra water in the toilet when doing number two, brushing your teeth. Heck, you could even take that water and siphon it back into your freshwater tank and use it later. In the shower, maybe just try to be really super fast, practice your speed washing, or maybe do it in just 2 cycles like I mentioned. One long wet cycle, soap, wash hair, all that stuff, one long rinse cycle and done. But let us know your tankless water heater tips down in the comments below. People love to read through those. A lot of you guys have some great tips, so be sure to put those down below. At one point, we were actually considering swapping out our tank water heater for that Furrion 60,000 BTU system, just because we wanted to try it out. Thought, you know, that sounds really cool. But after our experience in this other RV and these tests, I think we're gonna stick with our Suburban 12-gallon heater. Let us know what you think about all... Hold on. I know you think it's the end of the video, but I got one more thing to show you. I was out here filming some B-roll for this video, and when I was doing some of my filming, I noticed that I couldn't get the temperature to go above 86 degrees. And I was actually measuring more like 82 degrees coming out of the tap, and that was as high as it could go. So I tested the temperature of my source water, which is now the tanks. And my source water was 39 degrees. I was on shore water when we were doing the testing from our cabin. That water was, I think, around high 50s, somewhere around there, I forget. But my point here is the BTU rating really matters if you're gonna camp in cold temperatures. We've got our tank heaters on, we've got the furnace on, not as high as we would if we were staying in this unit, but high enough to keep things from freezing. And with that source temperature down to 39 degrees, the water in here is unusable. There just is no hot water above 86 degrees. Let us know what you think about all of this down in the comments below. Please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next week.